एमएमई 6 बैच से पास आउट है। और मैं ज़्यादा समय नहीं लूँगा, मैं कहूँगा कि वो खुद पहले अपने बारे में
Shubham, could
बताएँ
you
और
please louder?
हाँ, यस मैम। हाँ, तो मैं ज़्यादा समय नहीं लूँगा, मैं अनुरोध करूँगा जो सत्येंद्र जी से कि आप पहले थोड़ा-सा एमएमई के बारे में बताएँगे कि आपका कैसा रहा एमएमई में, और फिर उसके बाद आप कंटिन्यू करें। जी।
ओके श्योर ब्रो। तो मैं एमएमई 6 बैच का हूँ and unlike you guys we got time to spend our entire mme in cic itself. So I feel for you guys first of all because you guys have been reading everything online which is not fair at all. So yeah, we got to learn a lot of things from Cluster Innovation Center itself. The classes were amazing, and then we had Jamia Millia Islamia. So the entire learning environment that we guys got was actually amazing. It was interdisciplinary. We got to learn about communication techniques through Jamia and mathematical pedagogy from Cluster Innovation Center and how we do research and everything. So if I could, just uh, define my time in few words, it was amazing. It was amazing to be in MME during that time. And I hope you guys are having a good time here as well.
हाँ,
Okay.
सब ऑनलाइन है लेकिन बहुत अच्छा जा रहा है।
सही सही. So, before we begin further, I would like to correct that this is not a session at all, as has been. We need to justify the topic that we have. It's creative conversation over coffee. So we'll do the same. We'll try to conversate more and more. We'll make sure that each one of us is actually, taking part in the discussion. So please talk about everything that you have question or anything you want to say, because it's just an informal conversation and nothing is going to come into your exams. All right, so let's have some fun for next 1 hour and let's talk to each other. That's what we are here for. Cool. But since we are in mathematics education and mathematics is something that has been binding us, I would like to start this conversation with a question. If everyone allows me, if MME 9 batch allows me, because I'm unable to see a lot of people from MME 9 actually.
हाँ
Okay.
भैया बिल्कुल।
Okay. So I'll just orally tell you the question and you guys just have to go through it and try to solve it or whatever. All right. So the question is, okay, if two people take 2 hours to dig a hole 50, which is 50 feet deep, like everyone is getting what I'm saying? Please
नहीं
ensure you have a
मतलब
copy or pen for a while, because it's not that I'll be asking a lot of questions. It's just that we need to start something on a mathematical note, and that's why I've been doing this. So two people take 2 hours to dig a hole which is 50 feet deep. So how deep would the hole be if four people dug for 6 hours? Did everyone got it, or do I need to repeat myself? I would really love if everyone just take a moment and try to go through the question, what it's saying, and how it can be solved and everything. You might have seen these sort of questions a lot, especially while preparing for MMA exam itself, reasoning and everything. I'm just looking for a couple of answers actually. Like, where do we get from here? For anyone who have joined new, I would repeat my question, and it goes on like two people dug 50 feet deep hole in 2 hours. Then how deep would the hole be if four people dug for 6 hours? And it would be great if MME 9 actually, uh, gives answers and try to communicate more.
300 feet.
Sorry?
300. 300 feet.
300 feet. Okay, we have got one of the answers. Anyone else in MME 9 besides Shubham?
This is Kritika from batch 9 and मेरा भी 300 feet ही आया है.
Is everyone getting 300 feet or is it different for anyone else? No one else in MME 9 who have got anything else beside 300 feet? Or apart from MME 9, if anyone else is also trying the same thing? Have they got any different answer? No? The same? Okay, cool. Let's talk about 300 feet. So we all basically have an idea how deep 300 feet could be, right? So I'm not looking. I was not looking for an answer in pure mathematical sense, but it's totally cool because we are from mathematics. What I would like to point out is that when we have initially dug the hole 50 feet deep, okay, so it must have taken some amount of time. But the next 50 feet might not be the same because the soil gets harder as you deep further and further, right? So if we are taking the logic that the first amount of time those people took to dig 50 feet is the same that they'll be taking for the next 50 feet, and the same again for the next 50 feet. So do you still think that 300 feet would be a right answer? Or like, let's say they started digging and their equipments were all right, but after, let's say, 100 feet or 200 feet, the equipments get damaged itself. Or what if the workers over there get tired? What if people start asking questions like neighbors and all, why are you digging a 300 feet deep hole? Like, it's not fair at all. I mean, anyone get injured easily. Are you able to connect what I'm trying to say? MME 9?
हाँ, हमने सिंपल मैथमेटिक्स लगा के तो आंसर निकाल दिया, बट बहुत सारी जो फैक्टर्स हैं वो हमने नहीं सोचे थे कि क्या क्या.
Exactly. So since our topic is system thinking, I thought it would be a nice example to begin the conversation. There are other factors into play here. Apart from just the simple logic of how we'll be digging and how we are getting to the answer, there is the logic of how rigid the soil can get as further we dig it. Or what if the workers get tired? What if the equipments get damaged? What if neighbors start complaining? And other environmental factors or anything else that can affect that particular situation at work. So what I'm really trying to say here is that if we look at all these events in a linear manner, we might make, even if we are trying to get to a solution, that particular solution might lead us to another problem, and then we won't be able actually be solving the problem at all. We will be creating further problems by actually just changing the framework of how it looked before. And this is what system thinking is all about. Like, we don't need 1 hour session to actually understand what system thinking is. This is basically what it is. There are many systems at play. There are many factors at play. And although what appears right in front of us and we usually act on it, but that might not be the case at all. There may be many invisible factors which are affecting a particular situation. And as someone who is living in the 21st century, where everything is interconnected, we are living in a globalized world, and so we need to take care, we need to look into details, we need to find out how many things, how things are actually affecting one another before putting forward any sort of a solution. And that's what system thinking is about. System thinking tells us to look at anything in a form of a system, and instead of just devising a linear approach to solving a problem that we have in that system, we should actually be looking at the circular nature, how one of the things affects another. Like in the case of this whole thingy, how the workers are affecting each other, and how due to the continuous work rate, their equipments might get damaged, and how by continuously working after 50 feet, 100 feet, the soil actually starts getting harder, and it's tougher to dug out that deep after initial 100 feet or 200 feet. And this is what we really need to look forward if we are actually working in an educational space itself, because education in its entirety is a system. We all have read about it, the educational system, and how we are trying to reform it, and we have heard that you can't change the system, and that's really because we have this reductive thinking approach, where we try to break down things into their component forms and then look towards the solution part of it. What we instead needs to do is look at the individual parts and also look at the interconnectedness between them, how one thing is affecting another, and how there are individual subsystems inside the whole of the system out there. Okay, I forgot to ask, do I need to speak in Hindi at all? Like, is everyone comfortable in English? MME 9 especially, because this is for you guys.
हाँ कर सकते हैं. Am I audible?
ठीक है, मैं फिर भी थोड़ा थोड़ा बीच में दोनों का मिक्स करके रखूंगा ताकि मेरे लिए भी कंफर्टेबल हो. तो हाँ, बेसिकली यही है सिस्टम थिंकिंग, कि हमें सारी चीज़ें खाली एक ही नज़रिए से नहीं देखनी है, अलग अलग नज़रिए को देखना है, अलग अलग तरीके से समझना है, और फिर जाके हमें सॉल्यूशन पार्ट की तरफ बढ़ना है. इससे पहले आगे बढ़े, मैं पूछना चाहूँगा यहाँ पर लोगों से जो प्री रीड्स भी शेयर करा था, और अगर नहीं भी पढ़ा तो कुछ ज़्यादा फर्क नहीं पड़ता है उससे, लेकिन सिस्टम थिंकिंग पढ़ के अगर इधर उधर थोड़ा बहुत भी देखा होगा तो एक दिमाग में आया होगा कि क्या ये एक्चुअली में है करके. तो वुड एनीवन लाइक टू शेयर देयर एक्सपीरियंस? बिकॉज व्हेन आई रेड सिस्टम थिंकिंग फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम, आई वाज लाइक, अरे ये तो मैं बहुत पहले से सोचता था, बस यही है कि मैंने एक स्ट्रक्चर के फॉर्म में या फिर एक सही तरीके से नहीं था, वरना मुझे तो पता ही था. So, is there anyone who felt like they have experienced something like this and have gone through it? And anyone would like to share their experience? No one? Come on, guys. It's a conversation and we need to conversate in order to move further. Otherwise, it will be a boring lecture and you can get them a lot. I mean, online classes are not that entertaining, right? We don't want to make it a lecture. Anyone, you don't, मतलब किसी को ऐसा नहीं सोचना है कि गलत हो सकता है या सही हो सकता है, खाली बताना है. मतलब हम यही करने वाले हैं आज, खाली बातें ही करने वाले हैं, अलग अलग चीज़ों की समझना है. जो बेसिक हमारा मोटो है, मेरा मोटो है, जो मैं आज यहाँ पर करना चाहता हूँ, वो ये कि सिस्टम थिंकिंग को लेकर के एक डिस्कशन हम यहाँ पर शुरू कर सकें. और क्योंकि एक घंटे में सारी की सारी चीज़ें तो कवर नहीं हो सकती. सिस्टम थिंकिंग है, उसके टूल्स हैं, फिर वो एजुकेशन सेक्टर में कैसा होगा, उसके लिए तो टाइम ही लगेगा एक्चुअली. लेकिन कहीं ना कहीं एक इनिशिएट कर सकें हम डिस्कशन को, हम समझ सके कि हाँ, ये सिस्टम थिंकिंग जो है, ये अप्रोच एक्चुअली में मैं अपने आसपास देख सकता हूँ, सिस्टम्स में एक्चुअली मैं अपने आसपास समझ सकता हूँ या क्या है करके. तो उस स्पार्क को इनिशिएट करना है, और इट विल बी हेल्पफुल इफ यू गाइस वुड इंटरेक्ट एंड बी मोर अटेंटिव.
Satyendra, can I go or do you want somebody from MME 9 only?
Yeah. Hi, Apurva.
Hi.
Yeah, you go on.
Okay, so I was just waiting if somebody from the new batches wanted to go. So I think systems thinking as a term might seem intimidating. Okay, this is a very big thing and we don't do it in our daily lives. But even if we go about our routine, starting from the morning, whatever we do in our head subconsciously or unconsciously. We know that, you have to freshen up in the morning, and then you have to brush teeth, and then breakfast, work, lunch, dinner. We follow a process without even putting too much thought into it. A system has been built in our mind. If I talk about it in a more specific sense, or in the field of education, any concept we take, let's say I take addition. So we know that addition starts with a very simple concept called number bonds. How do we group the numbers together to form a particular number? And then there are ways to form a particular number only. How do we connect those different ways? And then we go to addition without regrouping, addition with regrouping. So for me, systems thinking is all about structuring your thoughts to get better outputs. And if I talk about more mathematical jargons, it also leads to algorithm and all the computer commands that we write, basically input and output.
Exactly. Thank you, Apurva. And look, it's that simple. It's how we use things in our daily life, how we are actually planning our day ahead. मैं सुबह उठ रहा हूँ तो एक इनहेरिटेड सिस्टम है मेरे अंदर कि मैं पहले दांत मलूंगा, फिर नहाऊंगा, विल गो टू वॉशरूम, विल हैव ब्रेकफास्ट. तो एक तरह से अब मैंने ज्यादा प्रोब डीपर नहीं करा है, मैंने सवाल नहीं उठाए हैं कि मैं ऐसा ही क्यों कर रहा हूँ. मैं सुबह उठ के सबसे पहले क्या कहते हैं सीधा खाना ही क्यों नहीं खा रहा हूँ. मतलब अगर कि मैं तो कर चुका हूँ ऐसा, तो मतलब उसके भी रीजन से क्यों नहीं खा रहे हैं, या कैसा है, या रात को ही मैं क्यों सो रहा हूँ, या मतलब जो भी चीजें जैसी चल रही हैं उसके पीछे का इनहेरेंट रीजन क्या है. मतलब अगर हम इस फर्दर क्वेश्चनिंग में इन्वॉल्व होंगे तो विल फाइंड आवरसेल्फ एज अ सिस्टम थिंकर. Basically, whatever we are seeing around us is a part of a system that has been continuing here for so long. What we need to do as educators, especially as mathematicians, is to probe deeper and deeper to find out what can be the real causes or root causes regarding things in the present state that they actually are. And how are we going to do that? We are going to do that by asking questions. And these questions might be uncomfortable for some, might be challenging for you. It's in, but if we'll go through, went deeper, and in search of an answer, we'll find an alternative solution which might not appeal a large number of people in the start, but it might be something that will truly be the source of change. Or I would like to hear more from MME9 actually. Shubham or Kritika or anyone else. मतलब you must have some sort of experiences. Like
I think
कहाँ
I
कहाँ से
just
हैं सारे
add
लोग जो
a
रहते हैं.
humorous sort of example here. Shivakshi, this side, okay. So I think system thinking,
Yeah, sure,
basically the
sure.
example is so right now lots of MME people are not really replying to your questions, and this is exactly one of the things that we explore about online classes being very effective. So why don't you ask them why aren't they replying? So we may get a lot of answers why they are not, what are the reasons for them not replying. Is it the internet or is it something else? So this is actually a very nice thing, a nice example for systems thinking, I believe so, and humorous as well.
Great, thank you, Shivakshi. Yeah, मतलब we can actually ask questions. Like we are looking at an event here where MME9 people are not replying to the questions that are being asked. I want to look further. I want to know why. If we are not asking questions, I want to know what can be the reasons. Like there can be enough reasons. We don't actually want to engage further. We are actually bored after the activities of the whole week. The internet connection is not strong enough, or we are here just because Jyoti ma'am told us to, and otherwise we have other work. It can be anything. No one says gonna judge you. Your marks won't be deducted. Just share anything, that the first thought that is coming into your mind.
हाँ, हाँ, मैं कुछ बोलना चाहता हूँ। सबसे पहले तो ये
हाँ
कि
जी, प्लीज.
मेरा कैमरा पता नहीं क्यों ऑन नहीं हो रहा है, तो मेरे को बहुत अच्छा नहीं लग रहा है, क्योंकि मेरा जब कैमरा ऑन होता है तो मेरे को बोलने में बहुत कॉन्फिडेंस आता है। तो
सही.
सिस्टमैटिक
गुड इनफ.
सिस्टम सिस्टम थिंकिंग के बारे में अभी जैसे अपूर्वा ने कुछ बताया माइंड से रिलेटेड, कि वो थोड़ा सा सबकॉन्शियस और कॉन्शियस में, तो मेरे को कुछ याद आया कि मैंने भी एक बार ऐसे न्यूज़पेपर में कुछ पढ़ा था कि जैसे हम रात को अपने घर में बेड से उठ रहे हैं, पूरा अंधेरा है और हम बाथरूम में जा रहे हैं, तो वो कहीं न कहीं हम चले भी जाते हैं, और अगर हमें फ्रिज से पानी भी निकालना है, हम अपने आँख को बिना खोले हम पूरा ये काम कर सकते हैं। क्योंकि वो एक सिस्टम हमारे दिमाग में इस तरीके से वो क्या बोलते हैं, एम्बेडेड हो गया है। बट उसमें उस जो मैंने पढ़ा था उसमें ये था कि इससे जब हमारे पास कुछ नया आता है ना, तो हम उसको किस तरीके से टैकल कर पाते हैं, वो सबके उसमें नहीं होता है। तो हमेशा चेंज से उसमें रिलेटेड था कि उसे चेंज करा जाए, और हमेशा जैसे अगर आप पजल्स भी करते हो, अगर सुडोकू ही अगर आप ट्राई कर रहे हो तो वो ठीक नहीं है, ट्राई डिफरेंट टाइप ऑफ इट। तो कुछ ऐसा था।
फेयर इनफ। और शुभम के अलावा, शुभम ने जैसे बताया, उसको ऐसा लगता है कि अगर कैमरा ऑन होता है तो ज़्यादा कॉन्फिडेंस से बोल पाता है। तो ये एक मुझे अभी तक का जो इवेंट दिख रहा था उसके अंदर का एक रीज़न मिला है मुझे कि ये है। अगर मैं दोबारा शुभम से और क्वेश्चन पूछता हूँ कि ब्रो तुम्हारा कैमरा आखिर क्यों खराब है, तो शायद और ज़्यादा डिटेल मुझे मिलेगी कि मतलब क्या ऐसा पहले से होता आ रहा है पिछले कुछ टाइम से, क्या मतलब तुम्हारा लैपटॉप जनरली शट डाउन हो जाता है इस वजह से कैमरा अफेक्ट हुआ है, वायरस आए हैं, क्या एंटीवायरस, मतलब मुझे क्वेश्चंस पूछने पड़ेंगे। तो अभी शुभम पे नहीं जाते हैं और कोई दूसरा एग्जांपल लेते हैं। एनीवन फ्रॉम एमएमई 9? अच्छा, आई जस्ट वांट
Yes.
टू आस्क
Hi,
वेयर आर यू पीपल? हाय रूपल, गो ऑन।
I'm Rupal. I'm from MME 9. Actually, I joined the session a little late, so I don't feel confident in answering because I think I don't have the complete information right now.
Oh, it's totally okay. I'll just brief you down what we are here, what we have done so far. We have actually talked about systems thinking. Talked as in we have talked how everything around us is a system, how a single thing affects another thing, and that in turn, affects the entire system. And how whenever we are trying to look into things, instead of looking them in a linear manner, we need to look on these things through a different approach. We need to see how one thing affects another, or in turn how the other thing is affecting the first one. Basically, it's all about the interconnectedness of the environment in which we are living in. Like if today I say something or do something, it might affect you in some way or another, and in turn your responses, your actions will affect me. So just imagine all of us as actors out there in an environment where there are institutions, where there are we people, and we are affecting the institutions. The institution is affecting us, and that in turn is affecting the entire social fabric that we are living in, which again affects the cultural system that we are part of. And the entire thing in itself is running the system that we call India. So if you have gone through the pre-reads, you might be able to get a little idea of what we are here for, and what I just told you. So I was just asking if you have any essence of what system really is. Have you felt the systems around you, or have you seen things getting affected? Like, look around you today. Why? If I'm gonna ask you, Rupal, why are we having online classes today? What would your answer be? Like, wasn't it amazing in
Uh,
2019 when people were able to see each other, have fun together, and everything else?
Yes,
Why are we
yes,
having this
offline
session
classes
online
were
today?
definitely offline classes were definitely amazing, but we have a situation like pandemic, so that's why we all of us have to stay home. We can't get like physically we can't connect, so this is an alternate medium which helps us to connect virtually and we can interact and we can learn more.
Yeah, exactly. Great. We are here because of the pandemic. And how did this pandemic came along? Was it started in Delhi itself, or did it started at your home, or was it far, far away in China, the place where I'm guessing none of us had ever visited before? So how is it that a small part of the world, which we know today as Wuhan, have created this imbalance in the entire world spectrum? A small part of the world in Wuhan somehow initiated a series of events which led to shortage of oxygen in Delhi, which led to loss of lives in entire countries, let them be, superpower countries or a developing country like India. This is basically because all of us are connected today. This is because if one thing's turned ugly, it will, I don't know if you care about it or not, but it is going to affect you. If there are, fires in Australian forest, it will somehow affect us, we people who are living over here in Delhi or in Uttarakhand or other parts of the country, wherever we all are from. If somehow there is, some sort of disbalance in Middle East and people are fighting, dying, it might trigger a series of events due to which refugees will get created and they will be coming into other countries, and then the nationalists of those countries will start having arguments. So one particular thing which is far away from us have actually the potential to affect the entire fabric in which we are living in. And that's how we see systems thinking, and that's how we are trying to approach the world right now. Actually, that's how we should approach the world right now, because if we would have actually been aware of system thinking and had been implementing its due process around us, we might have some better results than we are seeing around that we are seeing around right now. So yeah, after that I was asking to MME9 people if they have certain experiences through which they can actually feel familiar with the lens of system thinking or the systems around them. And then you came along and you defined it. Anyone else in MME9? Otherwise we'll move forward then, because it would only be a better conversation if you guys actually take part.
I would
I
like
see
to
Shubham
answer.
here. Shubham, hi. Yeah, go on,
Sorry,
Kritika.
so this is Kritika. आई वॉज पहले मैं ये बताना चाहूँगी, मैंने अभी तक रिप्लाई इसलिए नहीं किया बिकॉज सिंस जैसे आपने पूछा ना क्या रीज़न हो सकते हैं, तो बिकॉज हम ये सेशन रिकॉर्ड कर रहे थे एंड थोड़ा मतलब आई एम वेरी बैड एट मल्टीटास्किंग, तो मैं 2 चीज़ों पे कॉन्सेंट्रेट नहीं कर पा रही थी, बट अब मैंने वो छोड़ दिया और अब मैं इस पर ध्यान दे रही हूँ. तो अभी मेरे माइंड में एक एग्जांपल आया, मतलब आई एम नॉट वेरी श्योर कि if I'm getting this system thinking right or not, but एक रिसर्च मैंने कुछ टाइम पहले पढ़ी थी which was about कि आज तक जितने लोग अपनी फील्ड में रेवोल्यूशन लेकर आए हैं, सो दे वर दोज पीपल जो उस सिर्फ स्पेसिफिक फील्ड पे जिन्होंने सिर्फ काम नहीं करा, पर जिन्होंने मल्टीपल फील्ड्स पर काम करा, तो ताकि वो अलग अलग पर्सपेक्टिव्स लेकर आ पाए, मतलब अपनी फील्ड में, मतलब जैसे हम एजुकेशन में भी हम साइकोलॉजिस्ट पढ़ते हैं, तो बहुत सारे साइकोलॉजिस्ट मेडिसिन या फिर दूसरे बैकग्राउंड से भी होते हैं जो वो वाले एक्सपेरिमेंट्स यहाँ ट्राई करते हैं. देन जैसे पियाजे एक बहुत फेमस एग्जाम्पल है, और इसका एक जो बहुत अच्छा एग्जाम्पल मैंने पढ़ा था विच वॉज अबाउट लियोनार्डो दी विंची, जैसे वो फेमस पेंटर थे एज वी ऑल नो, बट अगर हम उनकी पूरी स्टोरी पढ़े तो ही वॉज नॉट ओनली अ पेंटर, ही वॉज अ इंजीनियर, ही वॉज अ साइंटिस्ट, ही वॉज एन आर्किटेक्ट, ही वॉज अ स्कल्प्टर. तो ये एक मुझे बहुत नया पर्सपेक्टिव मिला कि मुझे आज तक लगता था कि जो लोग अपनी फील्ड को लेकर पैशनेट होते हैं सिर्फ वही लोग चेंज ला पाते हैं, बट नाउ आई गॉट दिस डिफरेंट पर्सपेक्टिव कि एक्चुअली जो लोग अलग अलग फील्ड भी ट्राई करते हैं एंड अलग फील्ड का पर्सपेक्टिव अपनी फील्ड में लेके आते हैं, तो दे ब्रिंग अ चेंज बेसिकली. आई डोंट नो अगर इससे रिलेटेड.
Everything is actually related. That's the point of this entire discussion. Whatever you said makes complete sense. So Kritika here talked about different people, or some people who are actually famous or went on to change the world. So how did they actually do it? They were part of different fields around them, not just something which they have been reading, exclusively. So I would like to. Okay, I would like to show you some of the stuff before we move on any further, because the thing that Kritika talked about is actually very essential. But before that, let's kind of, you know, summarize whatever we have learned and talk about it. I have made a little presentation, uh, which is not neat enough, but anyway. Yeah, is everyone able to see my screen? Okay, I'm unable to see my screen.
Yes.
Is it visible to everyone? Okay, thank you. So yeah, since we are talking about system thinking, and then Kritika came along and she told us how certain people who are from different fields have actually gone on to do better. We would talk a little more about it. Before that, I just want to introduce a new word, which is mental models. All right. So all of us are human beings. We have thoughts inside us. Those thoughts get converted into actions, and then actions get converted into the reality around us. All right. So what actually happens is that, what are these thoughts? What is it that you're thinking around you? If you see a cricket match, you have certain opinion about it. If you see the pandemic going around you, you have a certain opinion about it. If it's like man-made or if it's natural, you have certain things going on in your mind, right? Uh, these are the mental models that you have regarding the realistic world that is around you. These mental models enables you to approach the society and be a part of it. These mental models are actually responsible for everything positive or negative that we see around us, as a collective as well as an individual. Uh, okay, so what really happens if our mental models are not clear enough, are not precise enough, are not something which have, relevant information? As you can see in the picture, there is a fire in both of the buildings around. All right. And in order to save a lady, these guys came up with an ingenious solution. She'll just jump and will catch her into something which
Sorry,
actually bounces back.
Satyendra. I just sorry to interrupt you. I think your screen is fixed on the first slide. So the example is on the second slide, I believe.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Let me know if the second slide pops in, because I don't know how to make it happen now. Like,
I
it
believe
is showing a
F5
second
and
slide
then
over here. Are you guys still seeing the first slide?
no, got it. I got it at least.
I think you need to switch to third slide. The example is on third slide. Oh, no. Take it. Got it.
Yeah. So now you guys will be able to relate. There is a fire, as we can see, in both of the buildings, and the guys below came up with an ingenious solution to save a lady, or I don't know if that's a guy. So they came up with a solution, which was, if she'll jump, we'll catch her into this bouncy thing, and therefore we'll be able to save her life, right? But what actually happened was that they failed to take into factor some of the other things around them, which in particular here is the elasticity of the thing that they are trying to save her from. And since they, forgot to take into that thing into account, what happened was that she bounced back into another building, which once again is on fire. So they came up with a solution, no doubt about it, and kudos to them. But was the solution something that, actually solved the problem, or was it something that created a new problem? Basically, whatever we see in systems around us is the same. Because we have this reductionist approach, because we tend to solve things in mission mode, or we tend to solve them just to have good statistical value, we often fail to take into account other factors. And this is not just about you and me. It's about people who are actually designing the policies which run our entire countries. Let them be education, let them be health, let them be livelihood, or any other field that is out there. We have genius people out there who try to come up with various solutions, but I don't know, due to the socio-economical nature or the political nature of the things around us, the solutions often fail to take into account some of the things which are important if we want to have the positive impact at the ground root level. And therefore, we are never able to actually, solve the problems which we intended to. All of you must have heard about right to education act, right? Okay, I'll take the silence as a yes, because you guys must have. So uh, I do not remember it precisely, but I remember somewhere that whatever we wanted to do through RTE hasn't actually been implemented even after how many years has it been now? Well, 13 years of it. Like I am forgetting the source, but all I can remember is that like only 12 to 15% of the work which RTE said that it wanted to do has been done till now. A huge amount of work that RTE actually intended, which was, to make education favorable for everyone and everyone can attend it, attain it. So all of these things, whichever RTE designed through various means, have not been applied across the country. Although RT was just as an act, it was not a policy decision, and it was just necessary because it's a law now. It was actually necessary for state governments to take it into account whenever they are devising new policies for their states. But still, we are unable to fullify the whole potential of Right to Education Act till now. It is because it's not that we are not trying to gain the positives out of it. It's just that our political realities, our socio-economical realities actually do not allow us to move towards a solution which can be sustainable, a solution which can be helpful to every section of the society around us. And that is why we need today's system thinking more than ever. We are moving towards a society which some of us might say is making a ground for annihilation. We all know about the environmental factors, we all know about the increasing population, we all know about the lack of resources that we have, and still we hear news about deforestation, hear news about coal mining, and everything that affects the environment in bad ways, and everything which kind of dehumanize us as an individual. Let them be mob lynchings, let them be fights between two communities. We do not want that sort of a word. And why I would like, because a straightforward answer can be, if two people are fighting, a straightforward answer for it can be they have hatred for each other. But if we move the unit of comparison from an individual to a society, we'll see that there are many other reasons which affect the way society is behaving or acting right now. There are entire reasons which are affecting how we think, how we look to others, and how we actually came up with the things that we are actually having right now. And this is something to do with the kind of mental models that we have. Our mental models, okay, so to talk further, I should actually ask a couple of questions for you, to you guys, if MI9 would like to answer. Like, if all of you must be aware of the pollution situation in Delhi, right? So I just want to ask, does anyone have like, what happens in their mind, or how they actually perceive the pollution situation in Delhi? Anyone who wants to answer, like, what do you think about it? There's no right answer, there's no wrong answer. It's just that what do you actually think about it, the pollution situation in Delhi? Any thoughts that you have?
ये ऐसी चीज़ है जो मुझे नहीं लगता कि दिल्ली में ठीक हो सकती है। तो मेरे पास, मैं बस यही सोचता हूँ कि मैं यहाँ से बाहर निकलूँगा, किसी और स्टेट में जाके रहूँगा।
Fair enough. सही है. Anyone else? How do you actually perceive the pollution situation in Delhi?
मतलब जैसे ये सेकंड स्लाइड में जो एग्जांपल दिया कि वन प्रॉब्लम लीडिंग टू अनदर प्रॉब्लम, तो उससे मेरे माइंड में पहले भी वो सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट वाला कंसेप्ट ही आ रहा था कि अर्लियर हमारे पास सिर्फ डेवलपमेंट का कंसेप्ट था फर्स्ट, कि जिसमें एक चीज़ हो रही है, एक चीज़ इन्वेंट हो रही है, उसको डेवलपमेंट बोला जाता था। बट देन वी गॉट दिस कि एक चीज़ जो डेवलप हो रही है उससे कोई और नई प्रॉब्लम्स आ सकती हैं। जैसे प्लास्टिक वाज वन ऑफ द बिगेस्ट इन्वेंशन जो एक टाइम पर हुई थी, क्योंकि रिसोर्सेज डिप्लीट हो रहे थे, नेचुरल रिसोर्सेज, बट आज हमें पता है कि उनके कितने ज़्यादा साइड इफ़ेक्ट्स हैं एंड एवरीथिंग। तो पॉल्यूशन वाली सिचुएशन भी आई थिंक जितनी भी इन्वेंशंस हुई हैं अभी तक, द एसीज दैट वी हैव, या फिर मोटर व्हीकल्स, और ये सब जो एक टाइम पे डेवलपमेंट थी, और अर्बनाइजेशन एंड एवरीथिंग जो एक टाइम पे डेवलपमेंट थी, उसी का अब हमारे पास दूसरी प्रॉब्लम आ चुकी है कि वी हैव पोल्यूशन नाउ, जितना मैं सोच पा रही हूँ उसको।
No, absolutely correct. My follow-up question would be, who do you think is responsible for the situation that we have in Delhi right now?
एक मिनट, मैं पिछले वाले पे थोड़ा सा ऐसे बोलना चाहता हूँ एज एन एग्जाम्पल। जैसे इंडिया में हरित क्रांति सुना होगा, ग्रीन रिवॉल्यूशन, एम एस स्वामीनाथन जी लेके आए थे। उस टाइम पे लाल बहादुर शास्त्री जी का नारा था, जय जवान जय किसान, किसान को और मिलिट्री को पावर दो, देश की रक्षा होगी, और खाने की कमी थी। तो इसीलिए वो उस टाइम पे हमारे पास जो सॉल्यूशन निकल के आया था, जेनेटिकली मॉडिफाइड क्रॉप्स जो थी, उस टाइम पे तो पैदावार जो थी फसल की, वो 4 गुना, 8 गुना, 10 गुना तक बढ़ चुकी थी। बट उसके जो नेगेटिव इफेक्ट थे वो आज कहीं ना कहीं दिखाई देते हैं, क्योंकि वो बंजर ज़मीन को क्या करते हैं, बंजर बना देते हैं। उनको पानी ज़्यादा चाहिए होता है, और कुछ और भी ऐसे चीज़ें थी, उनको ऑर्गेनिक फार्मिंग के लिए वो यूज़ नहीं हो सकते, उसमें इंसेक्टिसाइड्स और पेस्टिसाइड्स ऐसी चीज़ें यूज़ होगी। तो मुझे ये एक एग्जाम्पल अभी क्लिक करा कि ये शायद हो सकता है, क्योंकि हमने पूरे सिस्टम को नहीं सोचा कि उसके क्या प्रभाव हो सकते हैं। हाँ, और एक चीज़ और मेरे अभी दिमाग में क्लिक हुआ कि डीडीटी, डीडीटी एक केमिकल होता है, हमने 11th-12th में पढ़ा होगा। उसको देने वाले को नोबेल प्राइज मिला था, बट आफ्टर 20 इयर्स यूएन ने उसे बैन कर दिया था, क्योंकि उससे समुद्र में जो मरीन एनिमल्स थे उनकी डेथ हो रही थी। हमने ओवरऑल कहीं ना कहीं सिस्टम को
Exactly.
देखा नहीं। हाँ,
Exactly. The green revolution is a perfect example of how we actually, should move towards system thinking's approach. Like, this is the perfect example that there could be. We all know about green revolution. We all know that how it, increased the production of crops and everything. But was the solution good enough if we take systems thinking into perspective? Like, we know that after the increased use of pesticide, as the earlier Guru said, it increased the productivity for a little time and it gave great results for a short period of time. But when that thing went out for long enough, we actually were able to see the disadvantages of using DDT, the disadvantages of using genetically modified crops, the disadvantages that led to erosion of the soil. So all these things happened because during the process of green revolution, we had this very reductive approach to things. We wanted to improve the food production, and just to do that, we tried to build a solution around that individual problem. Had we taken into perspective the environment, had we taken into perspective the sustainability of the soil, we would have developed a better model. We wouldn't have actually gone through or created this revolution, which as we know it today, and would have a different approach, all that I can say. And that approach might have been more sustainable. That approach might, in a short term, it wouldn't have shown immediate results, but in a longer run, it certainly would have been better for the environment, for the soil, and for the people who actually speed through them. Since we miss that perspective, today we have problems for the same things that actually once were hailed as the next big thing, or due to that the entire thing was called green revolution. And that is why we need system perspective today. What governments today are trying to do, they actually do the same thing as we saw in the green revolution. They want to do things which can have immediate results. Like, all of you must be aware about the foundational literacy and numeracy approach that our government is having right now. We want to improve our rankings in international standards, and therefore we want our students in class first or class second to do better in foundational literacy. And for that, we are actually in this revolutionary mode where we want to help them attain these numerical concepts or the literature concepts, and want to do them by 2025 or 2024. I don't know, whatever that is. But I don't know if that solution is actually going to sustain itself. I absolutely believe that whatever they are trying to achieve, which is merely statistical numbers out there, they will be able to achieve that. They will be able to show higher number or higher proportion of people being foundationally literate. But I am not sure if that particular solution will be able to sustain once we get out of it. Once we start giving our attention to another topic, I think we will have a problem there. And the only reason I believe so is that we are not taking other things into account at the same time, or in the same solution, while moving to solve this problem. Like, how does an individual, the amount of nutrition a growing child needs. It is important for a growing child to get all different sort of vitamins or irons or calcium in order to improve his mental growth. And we got this perspective from the psychological view of things. Then there is sociological view, that we want the parents to give attention to the children. And for that, we need to devise ways through which parents are actually involved in the education of their children. There are cultural views. We need to make sure that children are not just learning things in their own language, but according to the jargons that actually exist in their society. I'll share you an example. So before like this, I was working in Gujarat for a while, and there was this tribal town where we visited, and they have everything out there. They have computers, they have teachers, they have a proper education system, as is actually shown that they have in Gujarat. But the thing is, children were not actually interested to even come to class or even involved in computer or anything new that is out there. Even teachers were not, did not wanted to use smart classes, even when there is the availability of that. They did not wanted to use the software which have all different things, or the subjects and everything, but they did not want to use that. The basic reason was that although it was in Gujarati, it was not in their local dialect, and that thing changed everything for them. It is a cultural thing. We know something like in your culture, mathematics have some different perspective. In tribal culture, they have their own mathematics out there. It's not that mathematics is exclusive to one particular part of society, or exclusive to people who are good in science or who went on to do higher education. No, even a vegetable vendor is actually good when it comes to numerical skills. It is because somehow these skills are embedded in the culture. So similarly, the tribal population over there had their own mathematics, and they were unable to find those jargons or those references in the education system that was provided to them. And due to that, they were disinterested in the entire process. So there are cultural systems, there are social systems, there are political systems, and all these systems, there are psychological systems, and all of them actually, they are actually subsystems of the larger system that we actually perceive as education system, and all of them affect one another as well as the education of the child. So when we go on to solve the problem of learning crisis, and we do not take into account the social perspective or the cultural perspective, we might not be able to solve the problem for a longer run. We will be able to show immediate results due to this missionary approach, due to this mission approach. But yes, like I told, it won't be sustainable. And if anything we have learned from the increasingly changing world today is that we want sustainable things out there. And like I said, anything out there that we see actually starts from a single thought. I would like to believe that since we have this reductionist approach in schools, where we are taught science as another discipline, mathematics as something else, language as something else, due to that we are not able to see things in their entirety when we go outside of that school system. Our mental models are very reductionist in approach. They are very linear. When I say "our," I am taking into account the entire population that we have in our country. Like some of us might have different perspective or better perspective, no doubt about that, but most of us do not. And the only thing that is stopping us to achieve our full potential is actually how we are perceiving things. Instead of looking all of them as a linearity, we need to see how things are interconnected, how one thing affects another, how science somehow affects the mathematics, and mathematics is involved in literature. So we need to have this sort of approach in a developing child, and only then we will be able to solve the larger problems that exist in society today. We will be able, if we have this more sustainable system thinking model in the mind of a teacher who is being trained for classes in school, he or she might be able to develop better curriculum for their respective childs, and which in order will help them to better to generate better mental models actually. And this is the whole idea of systems thinking. The idea is that nothing is exclusive, and it's everything is interconnected with one another. And therefore, if we are out there, we need to look at things in their entirety, in the complexity that it have, and we need to realize that one thing actually affects another. It might sound very rigid, or it might sound tough to believe in, but when you once start practicing or thinking in this approach, you will actually see that system thinking is actually very simple. And if once as an educator you start to develop your mental models by taking into account other perspective, you'll actually see the same thing being reflected in your work. You will be able to see, if say for some reasons some of you might go on as curriculum developer, or some of you might go on as gone into developing a policy or something. You will, since you have this approach of looking into things from all the perspective, the same thing will get reflected in your work, and the same thing will, whatever your work is, will get reflected into the policy actions or the learnings of a child, which in turn will affect the entire things that is around us. And that is why we are here today to discuss systems thinking. I would like to ask if anyone have any questions right now, because before we go any further, it's important that I take the questions because time is almost about to get up. Do anyone have any questions before we move on to the final thing that I want to show? Any sort of questions?
I just have one question.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe it's not MME 9, but I always have questions. Okay. So the thing is that there are sometimes, for example, when Indian government opened the whole economy for foreign investment in 1990s, like 90s, when Manmohan Singh was the finance minister, basically. So now what is happening that all of us are using plastic products, like for example, shampoo bottles, and they are causing a lot of pollution, marine pollution, basically, right? It was necessary at that time because our country was about to go bankrupt in a day or two. So that's why the decision happened. But now we are having, I think, catastrophic results because of that particular decision. But it was necessary at that point. But right now, it is not. Right. So my question is that there are times when you have to take necessary steps due to some urgency, but they may be bad in advance. So, I mean, in what way system thinking will help you in such kind of decisions where there is a urgency? Not exactly, you don't have really time to think about every perspective, but you have to take a decision urgently. That's it. That's the question.
Okay, thank you. So you talked about economic liberalization of 1992 and how it was important at that time. or so we are being told. I don't know. I wasn't born until then, and I don't know how necessary it was to actually open the world for everyone out there, and let capitalism come in and dictate the world that we are living in today. So I first of all, I would not like to believe that it was as immediate as it is today perceived as. I don't know. I believe that we could have done without capitalization, even if the world is increasingly globalized. So I don't know. Since we never tried, and since I have not studied enough, I would never be able to know enough reasons of why economic liberalization could have been avoided, and capitalism would have been avoided, or other perspective could have been brought into light. But one thing we need to realize is that. um was it a solution or was it a boom for a certain period of time? Like, yes, a market started doing well initially because a lot of foreign currency started jumping in. That created this space for a boom for a particular amount of time. But eventually, things will go forward. Eventually, other things will happen. Like you say, like you just mentioned, there are some immediate concerns that we look to need forward to, right? I do not understand how the solution is good enough. Okay, so coming to your question, what we need to do as a system thinker when there is a necessity for a certain thing, and we know that a certain thing will be bad in a longer run. Quite frankly, we need to localize our solutions. We need to see how certain solution will work in a certain problem, but we should not scale it up without further inquiry, without further evidence, without further realizing how other perspectives might create another problems out of it. um, I don't know how this example would be applied to economic liberalization, or how differently we could have done to increase foreign currency. Maybe we could have allowed foreign investment in partnership with Indian
No,
owners,
that
or
was just
I don't
a
know. There might
sort of a
I just like to believe that.
context. That was just a context for the question. The
Yeah, I
question is,
understand. I totally
yeah,
understand that.
yeah. It was it was not
Exactly.
economics
So,
question.
what I would like to. No, no, that's all. That's completely all right. Uh, but again, coming back to it, we know that it increased, it brought on capitalism, which in turn increased the amount of goods that we are consuming, and that sort of changed the society we are living in. For good, for bad, that can be debatable in terms of what we consider as good. Some people love to see the trees around them. Some people just find good in the nature itself. While some people love malls, some people love parks, some people love development. I don't know what that development is. Uh, if it is not sustainable enough. Like right now, we know that we are going through the environmental crisis. We are going through a humanitarian crisis. And if these things are not immediate enough, I don't know what else is. I think the concerns which are immediate right now should be human, should be environment, or everything which is taking part, or which is interacting at daily level. So I don't still don't have a clear answer for your question.
Oh,
I think I
okay.
will. It will be a
I'll
food for
just
thought
try
for me. I
to
will
give
have
you
to
a
read
little
down about
more
it and see
context.
them.
So we all have been studying sustainable development, I
Yeah,
think, since childhood. In EVS, I think I have studied sustainable development. Like, I feel it's been ages that I'm studying it, but still, when it's hot, I use AC. I know the effects of AC. I know the effects of packaged food, but still I use it. Instead, like we have to basically move towards a sustainable society. But me as an individual, I think my carbon footprint is way more than obviously than a lot of people who are living in, let's say, semi-urban areas or rural areas, because I use a lot of packaged products and everything. But I talk about system thinking, right? So for an individual like me, imagine, who is very used to, because I have mental models, as you said, where I know why a shampoo ka bottle is better than shampoo ka pouch. So you get it, like, because I have models like that. So I'm trying to budget everything, and trying to go for a solution which pata nahi kyun, which is more harmful for the environment. Now this is my mental model, and I think it's there in everybody's head. Again, it is because of why what happened in 90s, that's why. So it's because of that. So now the point is that we know in an emergency something happened, fine, you don't have the answer for it, but now how should we move forward from here? Now we are in the problem which has been created. Okay, now what? So we already have a system in our head. Okay, that happened due to some system thinking at a particular point of time. Now we have to change that system thinking itself. Now how do you proceed with it? That's my next question. Since
Okay,
just for a more clarity. Yeah.
that's. I think I will be able to answer this one actually. So, what do we do as a system thinker? All right, we know that there is a problem out there. Now, how should we approach it? Like Shivaksi said, that her carbon footprint or the amounts which are not good for environment, and she is involved in it, is way higher than other person. Let's say. So, how do we actually solve the crisis? Like, what can I do if every product out there is somehow wrapped up in a plastic cover, and the things which are not are actually quite, their prices are quite high, or the things which we consider as organic is not something that everyone can actually avail. So what we can do as a system thinker is, first of all, we need to educate ourselves, we need to organize ourselves. All right, I talked about different perspectives out there. We need to educate ourselves in terms of all those perspectives. Now, this is a little ahead of it, but since we did not discuss any tools of system thinking, I would just mention it out there. You don't need to necessarily understand it into its depth. But what we need
Satyendra,
to do is,
Satyendra, can I
draw
just
those
add
mental
something?
models and put.
Hi,
Yeah, sure, Nitin.
Satyendra. Yeah.
Hi.
So, as Shivaksi asked, so basically, in the system thinking part, where we need to understand we cannot change the system. But once we are aware about the about various aspects of the system, basically what are the various actors working in the system, we can try to influence those actors. For example, an entrepreneur coming up with a solution of biodegradable sachet is acting on one part of the system. That is where probably we as system thinkers can contribute. So I just thought basically probably it is very difficult to change the complete system, but at one point, once we are aware about various aspects or various connections in the system thinking of a particular system, we can try to manipulate one aspect of it. Probably that might help. Yeah, thanks.
Exactly. And Nitin, bro, have rightly explained whatever I was trying to say. So, like, okay, what I individually believe, first of all, is that whenever we say we can't change the system, it is an utter lie. That's what I believe, because I do not believe whatever government tells us or how things are doing. I like to believe that the systems out there are active because we have designed them to be so. We have designed them, and we have helped across generations to let them be the same. But again, I do not have evidence to support my argument. So I would go on to say, yes, we cannot change the system in its entirety, but we can for sure transform it. And how we can do it for sure? So every system has certain processes associated with it, right? So let us talk about the education system. There are certain processes that are running down there, from the national level to the school level. There are clusters and the cluster resource centers in which peoples are involved. Then there are block resource centers in which people are involved. Then in district there is DIET, and in state there is SCRT and other SAMSA and other things. So all these are institutions which are involved in it. All these institutions have certain processes that are running them. All the actors which are involved in this environment have certain things to do. So everything is processes around them. So although it might seem, since we are talking about education system, it might seem like a big thing, but if as a group we try to work on it, we try to pinpoint all the things that is affecting, say if we want to improve education of a child, so how can it be improved? Should it be the parents? Should it be the teachers? Should it be the quality of the resources that they are getting? Should it be the distance between the schools that they have? Should it be the type of food they are getting? We need to recreate our mental models in a physical paper or in a computer based tool and look at all the things that are actually affecting a certain thing. We want to improve the students learning outcome, and they can be affected by a lot of things. Let's say there are 50 things out there that will be affecting students learning outcome. Now we cannot work in all 50 of the things at once, right? Because we need to improve things, and we need to do them in a sustainable way. So as a system, what we'll be doing is that we'll try to find leverage points out there. We'll try to see among those 50 solutions, which solution can have maximum performance enhancement. We will try to see if, like, from the 50 solutions that are out there to help a student improve his learning outcome, there will surely be one or two or three which will be helping it to improve in a monumental manner. Let's just say the improvement in the training of teachers is one such factor. So instead of working on all other things, we will focus on teachers training. Or let's just say we know that food or the kind of nutrition that they are getting is important. So instead of working like in all the 50 solutions that can affect the performance of the child, we'll choose just 3 or 4. The food that they are getting, the teachers that they have, the kind of resources as like per se the books or subjects or whatever readings they are getting. Let's just work on 3 of them. And since these are our leverage points are something which can have maximum output by giving the minimum input in them. So we are not working on all of the solutions out there, but as Nitin said, we need to find something where we can actually do good. So these will be our leverage points. We will work on these things, and that will, bring somehow change how we will be working on these things. First of all, so let's say how teachers are being trained. It has certain processes, right? Like GCRT have some master trainers. Those master trainers train some other people. I'm forgetting their name. And those people in turn train the people in diet, and the diet people then go on to train people in clusters or blocks, and those cluster resource persons then go on to invite other teachers and involve them in a group, and teachers get trained there, and teachers also get trained in diet itself. So these are certain processes that are associated with training of a teacher. Now we need to look in the process itself where we can find that point which will be helpful to improve the efficiency or the effectiveness of teachers training. Is it the amount of discussions we are having or the number of trainings we are having which we can change? Is it the appropriate training that we can change? Because from my experience, what I have seen is that there are a lot of trainings which do not add any value into a teacher's subject material as well as his leadership style. But since it have came from the upper echelons of the government, he or she have to participate in it. So can we improve that, or can we improve the content of the training? This is something we'll get to know if we go on to do the kind of research and when we are working to improve teachers training performance. So as a system thinker, like I said, we will not be working on all the solutions that are out there, but we will try to map all of them for sure, just so we can have the entire idea, or we can see the things in their entirety. And then we'll find those leverage points, like working on which problem can affect the things most, or can get us the maximum output, or can help us gain the maximum effectiveness. And this is how we'll be approaching to this. I hope, Shivakshi, I am able to answer your question, like how as a system thinker we need to approach. We need to find those leverage points after our research and work on them further.
I just have one more question. For some reason, I have lots of questions. Okay, so just one more question. So since let's say I'm an educator and I am designing my class thinking in mind all the things that I've studied as a system thinking educator, basically. So I know what system thinking is. I've designed my class keeping in mind everything that I read. Now, what my question is so if I'm designing my class on the basis of these theories, what kind of impacts will it have on the student? What are the future implications? What kind of students or learning of student will happen in a class which has been designed or keeping in mind all the concepts of system thinking? Like this is what. So giving you a little more clarity, we all expect that once a student go through our system, will be able to very raw way mein will be able to generate good citizens basically. So if we are approaching the whole teaching learning environment through the lens of system thinking, how will it impact on the future citizens of our country who are going to be the children that we are teaching today? That's the question. It's a very big question.
Answer your question. How it will be affecting the students, or should I say how it will be affecting both the actors that are present in the system. When we talk about classroom teaching, there are two actors out there. There are teachers and there are students. And like I said, from the system perspective or the system thinking approach, we need to understand that teacher affects the student and gets affected by the student in the same way. So whatever we are trying to teach to a student, and the way he responds or the way he acts in that classroom will somehow affect the teaching of the teacher as well. Actually, that's what system thinking tells us about. So when we are trying to incorporate the system thinking approach in our teaching style, what we'll see is that we will be trying to involve we will try to involve critical pedagogy in our approach. Now, what is critical pedagogy? It is about involving social systems or incorporating social realities into our educational model. So if we will be incorporating social system system thinking style in a classroom, we will be taking examples from other fields as well. We will let's say we have a mathematics classroom and we want to teach students about problem solving and how they approach to world problems, and at the same time we want to teach him about other things as well, because we are actually talking about system thinking. So let's say there are a couple of individuals out there who are belong to a certain community, not community, let's say they are in government school, so we can kind of think that they are, or not all of them are rich enough. So how can we incorporate their social reality in our learning style? So that for the teacher, he or she would be knowing their audience, they would be knowing their children's, right? What they need to do is incorporate their social realities in their teaching style. What they need to do is involve the kind of things that they experience in their daily style and involve the subject matter with the mathematics, with the algebra, with the calculus, or with the trigonometry that they are teaching. And for us educators, we should believe that it is completely possible. It is possible for us to involve the social dynamics or the political dynamics or the economic dynamics in the classroom itself. And when that happens, a child will be more interested in mathematics, because what we have heard so far is that mathematics is very abstract in nature, and that is why children grew out of it as they go on to do higher mathematics and all. So why is it so? The only reason that I can see is because it is too abstract for us to perceive or relate it with the society that we live in. So, and why? Once again, it is so because we have this reductionist approach to our teaching, or a reductionist approach in our entire education system. We do not relate mathematics with the social sciences that are out there. How often have we talked about politics or economics or society when we are teaching mathematics? Like per se, we can give a word problem and ask student if like say unemployment rate in this country reached 3 times low in next 3 years, going at the same rate, like how much further it can fall low. Like these are the social realities that we are part of right now, and it's absolutely necessary for students who are in appropriate class, let's say the appropriate class here to talk about unemployment and all is class 10th or class 9. They need to know what's happening in the society. And this is what system thinking approach brings in the classroom. They bring these social realities, these economic realities into the classroom and educate child and helps him to think holistically, helps him to think that we cannot look at things in a random state, in a singular state. When we are doing science, we need to make sure that mathematics is involved in it, or the society is involved in it. Or when we are doing mathematics, we should see how that mathematics is actually affecting the systems that are around us. Like all of us, would have suddenly started seeing a lot of graphs these days ever since 2020 happened. Like earlier, we were not subjected to such sort of display in our screens, right? Now everyone have this certain Yog Setu, or I don't know what the app name was, or whatever other apps, or the newspapers out there, or the television channels out there, everyone are showing these graphs. The graph is increasing and it's decreasing. Like, I never saw all these things as a child myself. But the world is changing. The technological advancements are, gaining traction, and these are somehow affecting the culture we are living in. Therefore, it becomes absolutely important to update the education system that we all are part of, because our society is upgrading at a nonsensical pace, if I must say. The things today are not the same which how they were 5 years back. Like the invent of social media outlets, let them be TikTok or let them be Clubhouse these days, it all have changed how we communicate, how things are happening. But our education system is not up to date with the advancements in the technology, with the advancement in the society or the economics or the culture itself. And so by now, since we have been discussing system thinking for past 1 hour, we know that one things affect the another, and in turn everything gets affected by each of them. So we want our children to have this holistic approach toward things. We want them to see things in its absolute beauty and the interdisciplinary nature that is out there. And how we are going to do so? As a teacher, as a system thinker, we need to incorporate different perspectives of different subjects into our teaching style, into the problems that we are giving to the children, provide more context to them. If we are in mathematics, let the context be political, social, or whatever, and give them more food for thought rather than just how x square plus y square equals to z square. Let's give them the social realities and showcase them in the form of mathematical reality. That will absolutely be something that I think that students might like. So I guess I am able to answer your question, Sivakshi, at least to a certain extent.
Yeah, I got it. Thanks.
Yeah, it's cool. So is everyone able to see the screen that I'm sharing right now?
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know if like there must be some people who would have heard about this iceberg model and how things work. So just to wrap it up, because the time is almost running out, I guess. Yeah, it's 1:19 actually, and we do not want to further bore you down to into this session.
सॉरी सत्येंद्र जी, आपने आइसबर्ग मॉडल का स्लाइड नहीं शो कर रखा।
हाँ जी, आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट आइसबर्ग मॉडल इटसेल्फ।
नहीं, स्लाइड आपका वो शायद से स्लाइड नंबर 5 है, आपने 4 प्रोजेक्ट कर रखा है।
अच्छा यार, मेरे स्क्रीन में तो 5 ही चल रहा है, ये इतना स्लो क्यों है? लेट मी नो इफ इट चेंजेस। Did it change somehow?
No. Yes, it changed.
Okay, so are you able to see the entire like, I don't know if some of you might be iceberg model before, some of you might not have, but yeah, this is how things are. This is how we need to think as a system thinker. All of us must be seeing this blue line out there, right? This, and above this blue line we have these events, like whatever happened. Students are bad in mathematics, teachers are not teaching in classrooms, the amount of mathematics is absurd, it's abstract, it does not have social implications. These are all the events that we inquire in our everyday life. These are the events that we see. The farmers are protesting. Like, these are just the events that are out there. But as a system thinker, we need to look below the blue line. We need to see why those events are created in the first place. Were there any patterns or trends that led up to that event? Beyond that, we need to ask further. What those patterns or trends happened because there was some underlying structure out there, and that structure caused easiness or uneasiness to certain individuals or a group of individuals, and therefore those patterns started generating. And below that, we see mental models, like any structure that is out there somehow originated from a single thought back in the day. That single thought, when multiplied by many others, created these mental models, and that they somehow created those structures that we see today. Like if we talk about the green revolution thingy, someone must have thought that we need to improve the productivity of the crops. We need to improve the amount of crops that we are getting from a field. We need to, generate more things and kill insects. And when he read more, tried to get more things, he developed this structure of insecticides and getting fortified seeds or whatever. And then the patterns and trend change, and events as we see today, that the soil is eroded and other things happen. So everything starts from a single thought, which that transformed into a mental model. But once again, how does those thoughts or those mental models comes from? They come from the cultural values that we inherit from our society. Like an individual who is living in Europe or Southern America might have a different mental model or different approach toward things as compared to us. And it is so because they have different culture out there. The institutions there are different, designed different. Like we live with our parents, right? But most of you would have heard or seen in movies that people in Europe or America generally move out of their parents' houses after 18 or 19 or something. It's just something that is embedded in their culture. So somehow the cultures and institutions which are out there affect the type of thoughts we have. These thoughts help us to develop mental models, and these mental models somehow create the structures that we see around us. And the structures then play with the actors, which are we in this society, and somehow we see certain patterns or trends. These patterns or trends can be people are happy and people are doing more work, or like unemployment is rising, or economy is booming, or IT revolution is happening. And then all these patterns and trends lastly get subjected into a particular event. Like what can be a particular event? It can be Baiju is like leading IT company or like education company who is working in technology right now. But Baichu was not always the case. There were others before. The kind of pattern started back in 2008 when there was this startup boom or everything. Things might have started from there. And it started because the kind of structure that we have in India, foreign investment, as Sivakshi said, it changed in 1992. And due to that, a lot of foreign investment happened. And due to that, more and more people started coming into this space, becoming entrepreneurs, because there was this structure. And the economic liberalization happened because Manmohan Singh might have thought someday that this can be the way further for the country. His mental model, or the others with whom he took advice or made that happen. And all of this happened because they might have some cultural or institutional values, like emergency somehow would have affected how things might go on into the future India, or the type of institutions, like the same institution that we have right now, Delhi University or JNU. These were the institutions, or even the government institutions. The kind of values or culture they might have, like they must be watching the patterns around the world, and people are actually getting more money or getting more profit if they open their doors to capitalism. So we had these cultural values that somehow developed into mental models, and then we opened the doors to the world outside, and then the structures started giving in, and then we saw the patterns of various startups, and today we see Byju's as the leading tech company out there. So the iceberg model actually tells us that even if we see or come in in contact to a particular event, as a system thinker, we need to see what led to those events. As a system, we need to see those patterns or trends, what were the underlying structures, and all these things that you see in this picture right now. And with this, I like to conclude that this is all that system thinking is all about. We need to probe further and further, ask uncomfortable questions, look towards solutions which society might find absurd, but those will be the things which might bring some sustainable change. As a system thinker, we just need to ask questions and constantly keep on updating our mental models. Try to indulge more people from different fields into a solution. Let them be the solution of making people more efficient in mathematics, or making your classroom better, or making the organization that you're working in more efficient or effective. Let it be any field out there, or let it be anything that you want to do. If you have this sort of approach, this system thinking sort of approach in this 21st century, you will actually add value to the amount of labor that you are putting in. And with that, I would like to rest my session. Thank you.